when you add the neck strap, now I've essentially have 4 points of contact on my rig, which keeps this guy super stable, and it's really great for doing handheld shooting like this. What I'm going to show you is the sort of like basic minimalist rig that I used on my recent shoot when I took this thing out and finally gave it a test run. The rig worked really well for me, so I just wanted to show this to you just so you can get an idea of how you can rig up your E2, but also thinking through this as, so it's sort of like an essentials buying guide if you intend to do any sort of handheld work with your E2 flagship camera. This is the E2-M4 Micro Four Thirds version. Obviously they have the S6 and the F6, but they all have the same body size, same dimensions, so everything that I'm placing on this camera body will apply to those models as well. The ZCam E2 flagships are pretty particular about the type of CFast cards that they like to work with, as well as the type of SSDs that they like to work with. Little tip here, your T5 drives don't work with these guys. That is not a unique characteristic of this camera. My GH5, for instance, doesn't play well with these Lexar cards. I dumped a bunch of money into these initially. I was on a shoot, thought my camera was acting up. Turns out that these cards suck in the GH5. They work great in Sony Alphas. You'll find in various camera systems that you need a specific card to work with these cameras. So Angel Birds are highly recommended. Use the search function in the Facebook group to find the other CFast cards that are also highly recommended. Don't just randomly buy the cheapest CFast card. It's not gonna work for you. So we've got the Angel Bird CFast cards. This is the 256 gigabyte one. These came in a 2-pack. It's actually a pretty great deal for these cards. You're essentially getting just a little under $1 per gig for these CFast cards. I needed the V90 SD cards for the GH5. Those average about $1 a gig. CFast cards are averaging about $1 a gig. However, the file sizes of the flagship series are much larger than the file sizes from the GH5. So in essence, you are paying more for storage. However, for reliability purposes, definitely go with CFast cards. Now let's move to the cage. This is the small rig cage. I liked it because it was the most minimalist cage option out there. Having now used it, I almost wished I had gotten a more robust cage, a cage with more mounting points like the 8-Sin, but this guy's fine and it's doing great. What you'll notice though, because I didn't know this when I bought it, and I was kind of nervous about buying it because there wasn't any information about this at all, but the cage does have neck straps on it, which is perfect for me because I always use a neck strap. It makes it so much easier when I'm doing handheld shooting. And also, there is a sensor indicator on the cage, so you know where your sensor plane is as well. Cool thing about this cage is you have a screw built right into the bottom there. Okay, there we go. This guy's not going anywhere. So, pluses for the cage, it's got the neck strap loops. You also have an RE rosette right here, which is very handy for when we're using the revolver grip, and we'll get to that. And you just have a bunch of 1/4-20 mounting points around this guy, several on the back. You've got NATO rails on either side, and then RE locking pin mounts, one on the side, one on the top, and then another on the side there as well. Now let's put on the base plate. This is the small rig base plate. I think this guy is like, I don't know, $16, $17. So this will allow us to add rails on later. But also what I've noticed too is when I add the revolver grip handle, it adds height to it, and so it makes the whole rig cockeye. So adding the base plate to the bottom helps to give it that height, so adding the grip is much more comfortable. All right, we got the base plate. I'm gonna add a tripod plate. The next thing we're going to add is the microphone mount. This is a cold shoe shock mount, and we've got this attached to a cold shoe L bracket. And so I'm just going to place that guy right on the side right here. So this is kind of why I feel like I wish this cage had more mounting points, is because I've had to mount my microphone in an odd location. I actually didn't want to mount it on this side. I actually wanted to mount it on the left-hand side. So that way, when I add my grip, it'll help to kind of counterbalance the weight. Right now, it's a little too heavy onto the right side, which makes using the top handle, it kind of works against using the top handle. I mounted it originally on this RA locating pin section there. It was actually too far back. It was picking up too much handling noise. However, that was the perfect length for the Alvin cable, XLR cable that I had. And so when I had to move that, and when I wanted to move it more forward, the cable wouldn't reach. So I had to go back to using my Rode Video Micro for now. But this is a current temporary solution until I can figure out a better location to mount my XLR microphone and plug that guy in. So now we've got our microphone. Now we can add the most essential part of this build, which is the revolver clutch handle. But the one thing is, you've got to make sure that you've got it at a tilt, right? You don't want to put your handle straight up. That's going to hurt your wrist when you're actually using it. You have to think about, if you're holding it here, it's more natural to hold your grip at a down angle. Let me just grab an Allen key, and we just tighten that guy up. So there's two plugs on the bottom here of the grip. Just gonna put one there, and then this guy. Okay, let's add the top handle. Okay, now we got our top handle. As you see, the weight is favoring the right side, so that's not ideal. I recommend that if you're actually building and planning out your rig, that you try to keep your weight balanced on either side. Let's add on the HDMI cable clamp. What also came with the small rig cage was a USB-C clamp. Now we're ready to add our monitor. So this is the FeelWorld F5. It's not the best monitor. I am in need of an upgrade. Now what we're going to do is plug in the battery. The reason for that is because I found that it's actually a little tricky to get the battery in there while you have the HDMI also plugged in. It's a lot easier to do it when you have that added space. These are really awesome. They're almost kind of like a starter V-mount battery, so I highly recommend them. They're the 950 pack. You get two of them for about 40 to 50 bucks on Amazon. And the great thing about them is they have D-tap connection on the top, as well as 5-volt USB connection out on the bottom. You also have a battery check indicator there as well, which after half day of shooting, yeah, we're almost dead on that battery. So we've got a problem. Our problem is we have all of these cables just kind of getting in the way, and that's really going to trip us up. So in order to help mitigate this, these are cable management pieces. They're just loops that you stick your cables in. The company is called Sprig, and they just fit right into your 1/4-20 sockets on your rig. So we'll go ahead and add these. Push them in and twist them a little bit. And then we'll add another one up here. Boom. There we go. Now we're rocking. Next, what we're gonna add is this is just a shoulder or chest pad. So I'm using this essentially as a chest pad. I've had this for a long time. So I don't have a link to this thing, but there is a piece that Small Rig sells that is a chest pad that goes on 2 rails that you can use as a substitute. I think that Landpart also has something. It's quite expensive though. That just slides in to the rail. Okay, so that way I can hold it like this, and now I've got essentially 1, 2, 3 points of contact. But then when you add the neck strap, now I've essentially have 4 points of contact on my rig, which keeps this guy super stable. It's really great for doing handheld shooting like this. Last thing we just need is the lens. But I'm going to talk a little bit about this lens. So I did a review of the Olympus 12-40 on the GH5, and I sang its praises, but this lens does not perform in the same manner on the E2-M4. I believe what is going on is that within the firmware of the GH5 and the Panasonic cameras, that they have a lens profile for the 12-40, and that they're applying that lens profile as they're processing the footage. The M4 does not have that profile. It's just showing the lens for all that it is, and what it is not good. It is distorting insane at the wide end, almost near fisheye. It's really, really bad. Any sort of straight lines, you can just forget about it. My go-to documentary lens no longer works on this system anymore. I would not recommend using this specific lens, but this specific rig definitely got the job done. This is a sort of just pretty much the bare necessities that you need to start using this camera immediately. And honestly, I loved how this rig performed. I was like really stoked about it. The only things that I would tweak is, aside from getting a different lens, is probably trying to push the monitor a little further back. There were situations where even like right here, it was just a little too close to my face, and I just needed a bit more distance so I could see. I want to be able to move my microphone onto the other side of the camera, but that also is kind of becoming a bit more difficult because now I have my cables routed on the side there as well. A lot of trial and error with building rigs. You can customize it to literally be your perfect camera, but there is a cost to doing that as well. All right, hope this was helpful to you guys. Would love to see the rig configurations that you have. If you have any insight into how I can improve this, definitely let me know, because I am in the process of doing that. Any monitor recommendations I would definitely welcome, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.